Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
I didn't sing along this time.
I know. And well, you know, it's tougher with Zoom and everything. And if I'm queuing it up, then you're going to have a delay. But hey, listen, if you are listening to this at the time that it drops, have you called your mom yet?
Have you?
Have you?
It's about time you do that.
Yeah, you probably should. Pause. Here's the thing. Pause. We'll wait. Ryan and I are here. You can pause and you can call your mom right now. If you, hopefully you, I mean, and that's obviously, we want to be mindful of those who might not have, their moms may have passed away, or maybe they have a strained relationship with your mom. And unfortunately, one of the things that we don't do on the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan is we don't patch up relationships between parents and children. It's, you know, it's just a thing. We had to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
And while we could,
although perhaps your love of the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan can be the bridge that brings you back together.
That is an incredible point. I think that is
it's worth checking out to see if that's a possibility.
So if your mom doesn't listen to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, maybe you somehow through back channels you can get her listening to it, or maybe just describing your love of the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan will make your mom go, I wish that that they loved me like that. This is kind of a bleak opening. Yeah, I'm not proud of this bleak opening.
It's what happens when I don't sing along with the intro. It's just everything just runs off the rails.
Yeah, we're kind of starting off the rails, and we're gonna see if we can hop back on and judder back onto the rails throughout the.
Hey, you've all seen us lose our dignity on the show before. This is nothing new.
That's true.
It's all good.
That's
all
true.
Good. It's all good.
So all right. So we have a wonderful. I think we missed you. Obviously, we've been gone for a couple of weeks. We took it was one of the high holy weeks in the Ryan Harris schedule calendar. So we took a week off, and so hopefully that whetted your appetite.
First week off of the year, unless you count those 3 weeks at the beginning of the year that we took off.
Well, sure, yeah. We tried to do.
We did whatever it was, 14 or 15 of them straight there without a break. So
yeah, this is 15. This is 15 straight that we've done, and we have some fun stuff coming up.
Oh yeah,
we'll tease. I think we can tease this because we have those dates scheduled coming up at the end. The last two episodes in May, we are going to visit one of our favorite mini series and / movies series of all time, the fantastic V. And V
the final battle deep dives and at the end of May.
Yes, we will. What happened to my pen? I just dropped it. Oh man, everything is just gone. This is just what is happening with the my pen. Okay, well, all right, and of course, good friend.
How are you going to do this podcast without a pen?
Yeah, I know. There we go. It fell on. Oh yes, thank you, feet.
I don't have a pen. What are you writing down? What are you taking notes on?
This is my Apple Pen, so I can, because everything's on my iPad, so it allows me to check things off and scroll through and click on my links and stuff. To
what do they call that? Computer pens,
styluses.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. I just wanted to hear you say that you dropped your stylus.
I dropped my stylus, but now the stylus is back where it belongs. Where now the stylus doesn't want to register on screen because of the awesome background. Anyway, but yes, we will be joined by a good friend of the show, Michael Klug, for those I have such I mean, I love the miniseries, but one of my favorite memories I had is I think you had in college on your computer that you had in your dorm room, you had a game, I think, or something that used the V theme.
That's right.
Background music.
And it was just like a arcade game or a Pong game or something, but it stole the technically the final battle theme, the Barry Dvorak theme. We'll talk about the multiple composers involved in V and their different approaches, but
I just remember loving that so much. Like I could just,
that was always my favorite for sure.
And so V deep dive coming up. That is going to be really fun. And then, and then we were, as we were talking about V, we were also talking, we can tease that in sometime in probably June of 2021, maybe July of 2021 here, we will finally get around to the Alien saga, and we are going to get into that. So that's just a little tease of some of the things coming up. But first, so let's
and of course, if you have any ideas, don't hold back.
Yes, we are always looking.
Our buddy Bill gave us a good idea for a show, but we still have to do some thought on it, but it is a very cool idea. So
I'm trying to remember which one that was, because that was on the he
I hate to say it because of it, if we don't pull it off, then I'll be all ashamed.
Yeah, it was a good idea. I remember it was a good idea. I just got to go back.
It's a rocking idea, but it's just it's kind of something we talk about all the time. So we'll have to see if there's enough left for an actual show. Here's something. The point isn't so much that Bill's idea was good, which it is. The point is he had an idea that he shared with us. Thank you for that.
Yes, and we will listen.
We're not Star Trek Discovery. If you send us your story ideas, we're allowed to read them actually. So that you can sue us if we copy them later. Like it gets very complicated out there in the world of fan fiction. But the beauty of the podcast is that we can just steal your idea, especially if we have proof of you telling us you want us to do it.
Here's something that will.
Do not send your alternate Harry Potter timelines and stuff to J.K. Rowling.
Right, and all Joel and Ryan fan fiction that includes us. I'm not sure I'm going to read that.
No, this wasn't an invitation for that. Show ideas, folks. Send them on in.
Show ideas, not stories about the two of us. Unless it's the two of us like saving the world. Maybe I'd read that. Here's a question that would tie into an idea that Ryan and I noodled around for a while, but a while ago, I should say. But I would love to hear if there were any locations from films that you would like to visit. So is there a planet? Is there a city? Is there
made up locations?
Frankly, they could be real locations. But is it? We would have to do a little work, but it's for an idea that
I'd like to visit Angkor Wat, but I don't want to talk about Laura Croft to talk about it, so I'm not sure that helps.
Well, here's the thing: is there's going to be so many.
Let's do our best to stick to made up locations.
All right. So, is there a made up location?
Or if you're not sure, that's cool. Just get it out there. But
yeah, we would love to hear it, and we have a fun idea that we're noodling around. And this is like the third time I've said noodling around. So I think I should stop saying that.
I'd like to see the Great Wall of China, but I don't want to talk about the Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor or whatever that piece of crap sequel was.
Well, you could talk, but would you want to talk about it if we talked about The Great Wall, the Matt Damon film?
No.
Okay.
See?
That is the correct answer, but I just wanted to.
Woo! I got one right.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. I mean, I know we're not going to talk about the Mummy.
Nah, but there's more pop quizzes coming. I'm glad I got it off to a good start.
That's true. Just a couple, and then we're okay. So anyway, we're going to talk. We're going to, of course, because it is Mother's Day weekend, we are going to do a little tribute to moms later. Not evil moms. We
kind of avoiding evil moms.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're into, sorry.
Yeah. So so we are not but we have a tribute to moms that are awesome, moms that are seem very real, but we're gonna get to that later. First, since it's been a couple weeks, I want to hear about some of the films that you've been watching. What have you been watching lately?
Well, just playing catch up a little bit with the stuff we talked about before our break.
Mm-hmm.
The past two shows were our salute to 70s, which we pretty much, I don't think 100%, but virtually all of them were pre-Star Wars movies, basically.
Yeah.
Not pre-Jaws so much, but definitely pre-Star Wars, where there was a big paradigm shift. But of course, in a kind of a great way, in some ways, the style continued on after that. You know what I mean? It was like, but I think that those films made people realize, first you had to get through the folly of everybody releasing every crappy low budget space movie that they had in the vaults. But once they got over that, you really did see a change, and it was a generational change, I think, amongst filmmakers too. But I've just been watching a bunch of stuff, from kind of the late 70s and early 80s, that we can talk about a few of them now, because I don't know that they would come up otherwise. And a couple of them are duds that you got to like a real specific kind of thing to even enjoy. But a couple of them are fantastic.
A couple of these are really, really good.
Yeah.
One of them is for a long time I would have considered it one of my favorite movies, but
you'll have to tell me what that is.
Mm-hmm.
First one I watched was supposed to be the first in a big series of Alistair MacLean novels adapted for the screen. It ended up being the first in a series of one. This dude bought all the rights to all these novels, and this was the first one they tried to release, I think in 79, called Bear Island. Yep. And and I've seen Bear Island before, like in the Saturday afternoon kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a DVD too, which sort of blew my mind, just from the UK, that I bought and brought home, just like, oh, I'd like to have that. And who knows when a high def version of that's ever going to come, or I don't know why Amazon would stream that or anything. Maybe somebody is streaming it these days. You never know. But the point is, I like Alistair MacLean. I like Guns and Navarone, and I like Ice Station Zebra, and I like all those sort of quasi-military adventures. He's sort of like the Tom Clancy of his day, basically. Yeah. Those are the sorts of stories we're talking about. They're high tech for what they are for 68 or whatever, but I like those sort of movies. So I really like Ice Station Zebra with Rock Hudson. That's a fun film that had sort of a sad story. That movie was going to be MGM's big movie for the year, but then 2001 came out and was in all the Cinerama theaters and stuff. And then after a few months, they're like, okay, now here's Ice Station Zebra. And it was a relative hit. Like, it wasn't a bomb, but it was only about a month later where the hippies all were like, bring back 2001. So it was one of those cases where they got rid of a movie, brought one new one in, and then brought the old one back, which used to happen all the time when there were a limited amount of theaters. So I don't know what I'm talking about. Bear Island, Alistair MacLean. There's a scientific research vessel off the coast going on this exhibition up into the northern regions, north of Scandinavia, basically, way up north, where it's super cold, and to study, get this, in 1979, to study climate change. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they're all talking. It's all every character in it is a scientist of some kind, and they're all like discussing climate change and stuff. That's pretty neat. That's the first. I think you have to go back a long ways to find a movie with a bunch of scientists taking that seriously at that time. Even today, we don't really have movies like that. We want to see the world burn for our $6. We don't really want it.
Right.
Be all explainy about it.
Yeah.
We just want to turn our brains off.
We want at the end of the movie for people to go, oh, probably should have listened to that whole thing about climate change. But that's at
Bear
the
Island's
end.
fun.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bait and switch. I feel like it makes you think it's a smart movie where you should keep your brain engaged, but it really does work better if you turn your brain off.
Mhm.
But it's fun. It's got, avalanches and skiing accidents, and it's got these really cool, there were only a handful of them in the whole world at the time. They're not snowmobiles, but they're like these 2-seater hot rod hovercraft things, and there's a big chase with those on the ice and stuff. And
that's on the poster here.
Yeah, I'm sure, because that's the most exciting bit in the film, and it's good. Vanessa Redgrave, Donald Sutherland, Christopher Lee, Richard Widmark. It's a couple of people's first films ever. It's Bruce Greenwood's first ever movie. It was shot with mostly British money, but shot in Canada as a British-Canadian co-production, and was one of the most expensive independent films ever produced at that time. And nobody today has even heard of it. And I get it.
I did not know about Bear Island.
I get it, but I feel bad for it because it's not that bad. It's fun. And it takes things seriously that the techno thrillers of today sort of gloss over a little bit. There's a certain amount of mortality in it. There's 79. There's distrust still of Germany.
Yeah.
Which seems weird. And there's distrust of Russia. And this is like a United Nations mission. So all these different ethnic groups are all mixed in. And there's like resentment from the old wars and concern about the new ones. And so there's this paranoia within it that's a very cool sort of 70s paranoia that's pretty well done. And it's just kind of moody. There's some moody, fun stuff. There's a really cool set piece where they find this secret Nazi chamber where they used to park their U-boats to be refueled and stuff. And that's really well designed and cool and creepy and fun. And so it's fun. If you like those sorts of stories, I guess it's a pretty fun one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That one, it sounds fun. A very different type of film. Your second film, also.
No, these are sort of in chronological order the way they're here. They weren't put in really any sort of order.
That's fine. But from 1979, a little film where that taught people to like Sally Field. Norma Ray.
Norma Ray. That's still Sally Field's best performance ever.
Yeah.
She won the Oscar for it, but when you watch it, she won another Oscar later, like for Places in the Heart or something like that. What's the one where she's trying to save her farm or whatever?
Yeah. I will find it.
That's not nearly as good. And she's good in all kinds of things. I mean, she's even halfway decent in like Smokey and the Bandit, which is a movie that doesn't do her any favors. World-class actor basically, but it really does boil down to this. This film is about a textile worker in Georgia or Mississippi or something. I can't remember exactly where.
I'll get you
maybe the Carolinas.
Finding her other Academy.
Her other Oscar. I don't know that it's that important, but Norma Ray's
Places in the Heart. Sorry, yeah,
Places in the Heart. I was right.
And it is why can't I find it?
It doesn't matter, man. We just need it. I don't know what you're looking for, but
I'm looking for where the factory is, where everything is.
That's not important. Okay. Somewhere in the South where they have textile mills. I should remember. I just watched the movie for like the 10th time, but it's not important. It's a Southern place, where, like I say, they're non-unionized textile mills that they work in, and this Ron Liebman plays this is his best performance ever. Shows up as this union guy who's trying to organize them, and she's always been like looking for protecting the older workers and the younger ones, and basically the at-risk ones. She's sort of the the unelected leader of that particular group of people, and is always sort of fighting for better conditions for them. But they're all scared of their bosses. They're scared of losing their jobs. They're scared of a lot of stuff. And it's all about how they come, how the Union wins the big victory. I guess that's a spoiler alert, because it's not a foregone conclusion that they will, but it's the fight just, for their rights to make a decent living, to not be completely exploited. Pat Hingle is great in it. Grace Zabrisky's great in it. Beau Bridges is fantastic in it.
Yep.
Who else? There's one other person that I'm forgetting that's really, really important.
Beau Bridges, Barbara Baxley, Gregory Walcott as the sheriff.
Yeah. Noble Willingham's in it too. Everybody does a really, really good job. But it's an incredible performance by Sally. She just inhabits this lady in a way that's really, really special. She can be a bit of a movie star, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But this is like, it's like the perfect role for her at that time. The theme song to it too, sung by Jennifer Warrens, I think is written by David Shire, and I forget who wrote the lyrics, but that very, even at the time, very controversially won the Best Song Oscar out from under Rainbow Connection, which as time has gone on, Rainbow Connection's like an American standard, and that tune from Norma Ray is not, but it's still a wonderful song.
It Goes Like It Goes by David Shire and Norman Gimbel.
Yeah, the good song. I mean, really, really good. I can see why it won at the time, but
it also beat out Through the Eyes of Love. So Through the Eyes of Love, Rainbow Connection, and It Goes As It Goes.
It's a murderer's row of songs for sure. But it's a great song, and the score is great. And the lived-in feel of the South and these people's homes and the bars they hang out at, the cars they drive, all of that. Is really neat. And the bigger thing, and we said this a lot in the 70s, and this is still the 70s, but this is sort of moving into a different era, but it's just these very well-rounded, believable characters. They don't represent things. They're flawed, and they're just fully realized in the script and then in the film. It's directed by Martin Ritt, and he's a good director. He gets the most out of his people. And Sally's best ever movie, so you should watch it. If you're a fan of hers and you missed it, or if they made you watch it in school or something and you were like, but now you're in your 40s, you should check it out. It's good.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think she does her great Sally Fieldism that she does in so many of her films. Like the first time it's where she says something 3 times, 3 different ways.
Oh yeah.
Where she's like, we're going to unionize. We're going to unionize. We're going to unionize. There's none of that in this one. It's I'm pretty sure it's not in this one. She
talks a lot though. It's a talky movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's one of my favorite things that, has become like a character trait I look for. And anytime I see Sally Field in the movie, I wait for the moment where she says something 3 times. And
it's a talky movie, but I don't recall that happening necessarily.
I love Norma Ray. Norma Ray is it's a great it's a great explanation of unions and why unions exist and the benefits of a union. It's if you believe that you should be able to make a living. That's
why I first watched it, that's not wrong, but it just isn't a textbook of a movie at all. It is about,
you're absolutely right.
It's about not just people, but it's about these very specific people in this very specific situation, and that's what makes it sing. It really, in every scene, it's really wonderful. So
I think I think that's why it is a good movie to watch. If you from a macro perspective of understanding unions and the existence of unions from a macro, because it is not a textbook of a movie. It is a wonderful story. It's got really lived in, I think, as you said, lived in characters.
She's got so many good Oscar-worthy scenes in it, but my favorite scene in it from Sally is she has to sit her kids and her two kids and her stepdaughter down and explain to them. Just explain to her oldest son who her dad actually is, because all this is coming out and all these hit pieces against her because she's trying to do this, and they're going to be teased about it at school, and all this stuff's going to happen. And it's a stunning scene. It's really, really incredible. It's just her and three kids. It might as well be her and three monkeys. It's not an easy to do that sort of scene. And then it's really, really well done. Like from start to finish, everything in it, I really, really dig.
It's cool. All right. Next up is Robert.
Or there's this great, one more thing. There's a great scene where Beau Bridges picks her up for a date, and her two kids have to come with her. And he's like, oh, are they coming? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Because he becomes a bit of a foil for her on her journey, not completely, not in a cliched way, but Beau Bridges' character again is this guy who you just can really believe, who really is doing his best as he can to do the right thing, and yet all his fear and anxiety over the whole ordeal keep bubbling to the surface anyway. So I love that. I mean, I just love that you can't pin him in some cliched storytelling hole, and all the characters in it are like that. Even the management of the place are like, they're not your typical villains, frankly. So I love Norma Ray. All right, next up is Robert Redford in Brubaker. Hey, remember in the 70s when everybody was named Brubaker? Where did all the Brubakers go, Joel?
That's a very good point. Let's see. Because of the popularity of the name Brubaker,
everywhere.
Yep.
Culminating in this film, the last film of the 70s, basically, Brubaker, where Robert Redford plays a new like uber liberal prison warden who goes to his own prison undercover to see what the conditions are like there. That's sort of a spoiler. Like the movie didn't, although I don't know these days, I don't know how you can even consider a movie without knowing that going in, but the movie plays it like you don't know, like he really is a prisoner. And the whole first act of the film is him going through this prison experience.
Right.
The film, I don't know if the trailer or whatever reveals that to you. The movie ultimately doesn't end up being about a prisoner. It ends up being about a warden. So I think it's important to make that distinction, but it's a prison movie with again a just big pile of really, really good actors at the time, and a lot of kind of like Norma Ray. It's a ton of social commentary in it, no question.
Yeah,
but it isn't that only. There's way more to it than that. These characters are very real, and the situation is very odd, and Redford as nothing's better than Redford as a crusader against the system. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That's fantastic. And that's what this movie is. But this movie's there's hardly any women in it. There's a couple, but I mean, it's a male world at a male prison who are being farmed out to do labor for profit. And the profit that they're getting through the labor it's all going to corrupt pockets and stuff, and it's weeding all that out and finding out the real depth and horror of that actually, and of keeping that a secret throughout the years. It's a cool film. I forgot how good it was. That's one. Norma Ray I watch all the time because I really adore it, and because of its Oscar cred and everything. But Brubaker I hadn't seen in ages, and it holds up really, really well. They're both a time capsule, of the late 70s or early 80s, but they're still really, really good.
It did get a nomination for screenplay. Let's see, for original screenplay. But I haven't seen Brubaker in
half the
years.
stuff, not all of it, but half the stuff that's illegal that they're fighting against in Brubaker is completely legal and totally normalized today.
Yeah.
For profit labor in prisons and for profit prisons or whatever. I mean, that's that didn't get fixed by this movie. Quite the opposite, actually, as it turns out.
Yep. Yeah, it's but Yaphet Kotto is in it. David Keith, very young Morgan Freeman's in this one.
That's right.
Emmett Walsh.
Morgan Freeman back when he was a heavy, back
Yeah.
when he was a scary bad guy, which he was a lot in the late 70s and early 80s. We think of him as this wise old sage who just is going to narrate our lives and point us in the right direction and whatever, and meet up with us and Zihuatanejo. But he used to be a stone cold pimp in films if you go back and watch. And this is one of those roles, and it's pretty cool. So he's scary in it.
Yep. Everett McGill.
Yaphet Kotto is cast in the Morgan Freeman role.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Apparently,
it's sort of a reversal.
Apparently, Nicolas Cage is an uncredited background prisoner.
No, I missed him.
Yeah, but so this was 1 year before his first credited role. So he was making his way. He was making his way.
It's a prison movie. It's
and
it's kind of a mystery, and it's good though. It's a good film.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you're missing. I don't think it's a big.
There's even a shootout in it, which it's not the kind of movie that would normally have one, and it has actually a pretty exciting shootout. So,
yeah, I don't think
car chases though.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big spoiler to say he is, that he's appearing. Literally, the first sentence in this plot description is, Brubaker arrives at Wakefield State Prison in Arkansas disguised as an inmate. So
I still feel like the movie doesn't tell you that. And so I get it. I just told everybody. I don't know how you talk about the movie without it. Mm-hmm. But the movie spends a good 25 minutes-ish without you knowing that necessarily, unless you read the back of the box or, and the poster doesn't, the poster tells you too. So I guess people would have known.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So
it's funny because from a screenwriter perspective, this was a last script I wrote. This was a criticism that our buddy Michael had, who's a really good writer, was just that, you're not telling anybody anything, and you're not setting up anything easily. And we don't know who we're supposed to focus on as a character here. And I wrote it that way deliberately, Mm-hmm. Just as this is a sidetrack, but the movie The Thing, before Kurt Russell was cast in it, that you weren't supposed to know that movie wasn't supposed to have a central character.
Right.
It's written where it doesn't have one. And I always thought that's so cool. I would like to do that someday. Like eventually you get to one, because in any sort of horror story,
mm-hmm.
characters start dropping, and then you've got to figure it out. But, one of the cool things, with Alien, and we'll talk about that later this summer, but, Tom Skerritt's top billed in that, and he goes about halfway through it. Spoiler alert for Alien, I guess. But that, it really is a rather even ensemble.
Right.
I think before John Hurt was cast, it had John Finch in it, who had to bail out because he got really, really sick. And John Finch is more, he's more of a good looking, like, leading man hero kind of guy than Hurt is. Hurt's much more of a interesting character actor, but that sort of gung-ho, I'm going to go on the mission and I want to do this, like that. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to think that guy's going to save the day. he brings you down. Like that sort of thing is cool to me. Yep. So this movie, if we ever talk about like Dark City, the reveals, you almost have to talk about them or you can't talk about what the thing is.
Right.
But I do admire a film where the writer wrote it a certain way. He wrote it as what's going on here, mm-hmm. to disorient you. And I always, whenever I say that stuff out loud, I feel like I'm betraying them somehow. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just a point of philosophy.
All right. Next up is a movie called, that I don't know this movie, Zulu Dawn.
Oh, this is sequel. It's a prequel to Zulu.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of Alien, John Hurt, it was not John Finch, God rest his soul, and Hurt was offered that role in Alien first, but he had to turn it down because he'd accepted a role in Zulu Dawn. But then Zulu Dawn, then the Republic of South Africa, where Zulu Dawn was being shot, denied him a visa to work there because of his activism. And John Hurt's like, well, geez, I don't have any activism really. He says it all, British and charming or whatever, where but he suspects that they mixed him up with John Hurd, the American actor who is very much an activist.
Yeah.
And then as a result, Finch got, like I said, he had real problems. He was hospitalized. He was taken from the set of Alien to the hospital where he remained for several days before he recovered. And Ridley Scott famously traveled up to the north of England to pitch the thing to Hurt overnight. And he said, sure, I'm suddenly available. Why not?
Yeah.
But Zulu Dawn's a big, it's a really antiquated style of film for where it came out here, in a very wrong-headed way. The film Zulu with Michael Caine is the story of this remote British outpost where they held off this mass of Zulu warriors attacking them for like more than a day. And even though the Zulu uprising in Africa is considered one of the biggest losses in the British Empire's history, that story, like the Alamo or whatever, and very much like the Alamo, has taken on an outsized legend for being a point of pride, even amongst what was a military defeat. Zulu Dawn is the prequel to that story, basically. And they've been trying to do it prequel forever. And then when some idiot at some studio finally said, yes, you can do it now, it was way too late. It was way too late to do it. But Burt Lancaster, Peter O'Toole, Ronald Lacey's in it, Ronald Pickup's in it. This big list of British luminaries, character actors and such. Bob Hoskins is in it. He's fantastic in it.
Yeah.
There's no better, British Imperial like drill sergeant available in any movie than Bob Hoskins, and he's fantastic in it. Simon Ward is worth mentioning because even though he wasn't a big star, he's sort of the star of the movie. He's the young, good-looking hero of the film.
Right.
And it's all shot on location with tons of Zulu extras, and it's got these big battles and all this wide shot camera stuff. And I mean, it's a good movie, genuinely. And because it's like there's a bit of that, I don't want to call it like a Vietnam allegory, but there's every time you tell a story like that, where the people without the technology, without the weapons, without the sense of civilization rise up against an oppressor, even though we're very much watching the film from the oppressor's perspective, right, and our sympathies are with them naturally because they look and talk like us. The Zulus, we spend some time with them too, so we get where they're coming from, but not much. They're mostly this mob of faceless enemies coming at us. Mm-hmm. But I like it because it is a complicated movie in that way. It tugs on your sympathies. It shows the foolishness of imperialism, frankly. And I think that even in 1979, that was a cool thing for a British movie to do. But it was shot with the cooperation of the apartheid, regime in South Africa, like a lot of movies from this era, a lot of really good ones, but nevertheless, that was a cheap place to go make a film. And a lot of the African actors and stuff of those days were very conflicted about taking roles in those. Sure. So they were always looking for what the movie about ultimately, what's the lesson? Because if you're an African actor and a big British movie comes, you can't just say no to it. Especially if the message in the end is something you can kind of get behind, and this is one of those films. So. Mm-hmm. Good.
Very cool.
It's good. It's weird, and it's very, very much fallen by the wayside.
Sure.
My funny story, my friend Gus, when I rented this when we were in college, just a really crappy VHS cropped version of it, which couldn't have been good. And he fell asleep during it, and then he woke up and started to freak out. Because there were so many Zulus. I don't want to besmirch him, but
Yeah.
he might have had some other sort of substances that were inspiring his sort of paranoia about what was happening on the screen.
Right.
But I'd never heard of it either, and I was riveted by it. So that's sort of a weird but relatively happy memory. And these days it's restored. It's a full-on sort of widescreen spectacle of a film. It's not bad. It's pretty good.
Cool.
And it has a cool alien connection. Maybe we'll talk about that again later. Right. Forgive us if I repeat myself.
All right. All right. So the next one, I found odd that you put this on the list, because I'm assuming you just watched the video for.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that you decided to watch the video version of the Final Countdown.
Let me put my cape on and do a magic trick for you.
Gob.
That's so funny that he uses that song. That's the best use of that song ever.
Yep.
Second best use was when Metallica did an MTV contest where a kid won a contest, got to hang out with Metallica for like all weekend or whatever. Those sorts of contests, they don't do those anymore for insurance purposes, I'm sure. And what they got him, first of all, that song starts playing. They brought him like a guitar with the neck broken, and they had a door-sized signed poster of Joey Tempest from Europe, and all this other just crap, basically. And of course, that wasn't his real prizes. They were punking him, but it was it was really, really funny. I'm not like a huge Metallica fan. My sympathy is probably more with Joey in Europe. I really dug Final Countdown when it came out, but it's a nice reminder of what the real rock bands thought of hair metal and stuff. Yeah. They didn't like it. It's all mixed together now, but at the time, like. You couldn't get somebody in Guns N' Roses to say something nice about Motley Crue, nor should they have. And the guys in Metallica were not impressed with Poison at all. And it's fun to watch them in that era just hammer those hair metal bastards. I hate every one of them.
Yeah, there's a reason why. I mean, again, sidetrack. Guns N' Roses.
Except Sebastian Bach, respect. Yeah,
the very first Guns N' Roses video for "Welcome to the Jungle," they have those guys primed up a little bit hair metally, and there's a reason why after that you never see them like that. That was when Axl started his bandana phase and. They
weren't into it. Once they had a little bit of power and had some hits on the radio, they reverted back to what they were.
Yeah, you win this round, studio, but we're gonna win the war.
That's a topic for a different podcast. But
the movie, So the movie is the 1980 movie, The Final Countdown.
We should save it for a time travel episode, but. Rob's always trying to get us to do time travel, and I obviously I like time travel movies, but. I just find they're so. To me, there aren't time travel movies. They're always primarily something else, and time travel is just a MacGuffin with which we get to whatever that is, whether it's romance or, you know what I mean. You don't know whether it's the Terminator or whatever. I don't really want to talk about Terminator 2 and Somewhere in Time in the same episode, for example. And yet, in terms of time travel, they're the top of the genre. This is a time travel movie. It's really cool. It's Martin Sheen plays this private advisor guy who is going on a little pleasure cruise around Hawaii on an aircraft carrier commanded by Kirk Douglas. And to basically to see if he has any ideas of how they can do things differently or whatever. He's a consultant. And they go through this time vortex designed by the great Morris Binder, most famous for designing the James Bond credit sequences.
Sure.
And they end up, same place, but in a different time. They end up just off the coast of Hawaii 24 hours prior to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And because they're a bunch of clever guys, they figure that out. and then they have to decide kind of what to do about it. It's tricky, and it's really really fun. They run into these people from the era played by Charles Sterling and Catherine Ross, and the whole film was done with full on cooperation from the United States Navy, and so it's all the footage of the jets taken off and stuff, and all the gear and all the sets and uniforms, like everything just rings true as far as that goes. If you ever watch a military movie where the military
Does not.
didn't,
Yep.
you know what I mean? These days it can be faked pretty well, but back then you really needed their help to,
Yep.
to do that kind of thing. They shot it on an aircraft carrier. They shot it in the port of Pearl Harbor. There's this great sequence where where he's being flown out to the aircraft carrier and they fly over the Arizona Memorial and stuff. This is a really cool movie, and it has one of those cool, what do you do, ethical questions about time travel.
Mm-hmm.
None of these guys this isn't some mad scientist who went back in time and now has to decide whether he wants to kill a dinosaur or not. But it's the same kind of thing where it's like, the really smart people who are inclined to not let all these folks, get murdered basically in this sneak attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to think about whether they really should do that or not. Indeed, they inadvertently rescue a couple people they shouldn't have rescued, and they got to decide rather grimly what to do with them. And their solution is, let's just say, ingenious and one of the cooler ending reveals of any film out there. And it's just fun. It's all underplayed and played really believably. Kirk Douglas, who can go over the top, is a very cool customer as the commander of that ship. Martin Sheen is really cool. They put him in this pale blue suit, which is very, plenty cool, I'm sure, for 1980, but he stands out like a sore thumb in every scene he's in with all these tan, military guys, if that makes any sense. It's deliberate and it's clever.
Yeah.
And the film's full of that sort of clever visual storytelling I really, really dig. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's a fun movie from that era that, I caught on cable TV at the time, but could have easily missed. And it's great. It's a fun 80s adventure. I really, really dig. It's very classy and adult, but, so it doesn't have a lot of that 80s kitsch that things like, I don't know. Like The Explorers or Inner Space, it's not that kind of 80s movie, but it's still really cool. It's more of a 70s movie.
All right. Next up is, this is the one that when I was a kid, this was one of my favorite movies, and that's The Bounty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When you were a kid?
Well, yeah, like when I was like 12 to it was like early. I mean, the movie came out when I was about 10 or so. I remember seeing it on video, like in the early days when we would go to.
It's widely believed to be the closest to the actual telling of the Mutiny on the Bounty story. Mm-hmm. Like it really sees all sides of it essentially, and it shows the breakdown in a really, really believable way. Anthony Hopkins plays the Colonel Bligh or what's his
William
name?
Bligh, Lieutenant Bligh.
Yeah, who's commander of this merchant vessel that's traveling to South America to pick up stuff and bring them back. Mostly agricultural stuff because they have to go there, then they have to wait for it to grow and stuff before they can travel back with it. And his whole and his buddy that he's traveled with before, Fletcher Christian, played by all-time hunky Mel Gibson in this film.
Yeah, at his hunkiest.
At his absolute hunkiest, and he knows it, and he's really good in it. Mel's a mixed bag. He was a really good actor, especially during this era, but you didn't quite know what you were going to get from him. It all depended on how he saw the material or whatever. But he's he's a Hollywood actor who grew up in Australia, and he's surrounded by, and none of these guys were big names yet. Even Hopkins was not a big name yet, but Anthony Hopkins and Liam Neeson and Daniel Day-Lewis, the supporting cast of this film is packed to the rafters with guys who went on to much more notable work. And he's fantastic in it. The ship scenes are exciting and amazing. The score by Vangelis is otherworldly and incredible. Like, he's a weird fit for this material, and yet it really works like a charm somehow. I don't know how all this, synthesizer scores of the 80s either work or they don't work, but this one really, really works. Partly, I think, because Vangelis, even though he's heavy on the keyboards, he always has this big cavernous percussion, and he always has all these other things going on in his music. I think that really helps his stuff sort of stick out amongst the rest. This is one of my favorites. The sequence where they're trying to get around Cape Horn is just stunningly amazing, especially in widescreen. When you take it off of Showtime or however we watched it as a kid.
Sure.
You watch it now, and it's a breathtakingly beautiful film.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that, because I never saw it in the theater.
It doesn't have a very good video transfer, which sucks because it wasn't a big hit. But it just getting more pixels and getting it out in widescreen again, so you really see the vistas and can really follow the action. The Cape Horn sequence, when I was a kid, because I watched this when I was a kid, same as Joel, was just this big gray mess. Like, that helped with the chaos, but you couldn't really tell what was going on. And now you can, and it's awesome. It's not an action sequence per se, but it's goal-oriented screen action, which is very cool to watch, I think. And the tropics are great. And, when I was a kid, I didn't really get it. I thought, well, by the time it was over, I was like, well, this is a downer.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't expect any movie to be a downer at all when I saw it when I was 10 or 12. I just didn't expect that. I thought everything would get resolved adequately. And
yeah. I gotta admit, I couldn't tell you why I loved it.
It's good. It's really, really good. You must have just known that inherently.
Yeah, I just watched it I remember seeing the Mutiny on the Bounty with
Marlon Brando?
No, not Brando's version.
There have been some others. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I bet I can find it here. Oh yeah, Clark Gable and Charles Lawton.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah,
that's a good movie.
Yeah. I remember seeing that, and kind of digging that. And you saw that
first?
Yeah.
I think if I would have seen one of the older ones first and knew what to expect from the movie, when I first saw it, my expectations would not have been dashed so much, because I just didn't know. I didn't know what that story was.
Yeah, I would say that
everybody kind of does now. It's amazing in a way. I mean, Bly and Christian in this version of the film they're almost like lovers, and they have these weird jealousies and these weird sort of moments where they just can't, because they need each other for this to work. And they just, at a certain point, they get alienated enough from each other that they can't reconnect and make it go. Even though at different times, different guys are trying to make it work, it's always at the wrong time.
Yep.
And if you've ever seen a relationship dissolve into madness, disappointment, and frustration, it rings really, really true. And it's outstanding performance by Hopkins and really, really, really good by Gibson. And I really dig it. It's an old school adventure tale in that there's no treasure or any of that kind of thing. It's old school. It's not
a swashbuckler.
Right. But it does transport you into the sea life, and you really learn a lot about that sort of thing in it, in a Moby Dick sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate. I'm thinking, and I could be misremembering, but I'm thinking like this is one of those that I was like, my dad, we watched it like on a rainy Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, when it was on TV, the Charles Lawton version, and then when this came out, then it was like, oh well, this is a new version of Mutiny on the Bounty. Let's rent this. because I do distinctly remember renting it from, as we've mentioned before, CNC Video.
Directed by Roger Donaldson.
Yeah.
It's really, really strong film.
Okay. And then the last one here on your list here of fun films from the last couple weeks, 1984's Iceman, another movie I dug. I remember digging this, like seeing this on HBO.
When I was a kid, I loved Iceman
Yeah.
too, because it just, no, I don't know. Again, I don't know why, but partly because it's very, very good. But it's just different. It's a totally different kind of film that I can't think of anything quite like it. It's really stylized and shot in a really awesome way right from the first shot, basically. We talked about it back in our exploitation episode. Our guest brought up this filmmaker, Fred Shepsey. I'm going to say his name wrong, but he directed films that we talk about a lot on the show. The Russia House.
Fred Shepsey.
Yeah, except I don't think that's how you say it. That's how I've been saying it for years until I actually heard an Australian say it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, it's totally not what I thought."
Apparently, according to this, it's Skepsey.
Skepsey, yeah, thank you. So I'm trying to get that right because I've been calling him Fred Shepsey for years. Yeah. He directed, Steve Martin's Roxanne, and like I said, Russia House. He's got a whole list of interesting films that he's made. He's a notoriously difficult director. He likes to have his way, and he has some strange ideas. And this movie's a strange movie. This film, the studio dictated at some point that he reshoot a different ending for it, and he went so far as to pretend to reshoot it, but not reshoot it, and put his original ending in the final cut before it was too late. Well, at the time, it was too late for them to do anything about it. So that's film director badassery, I have to say. Yeah. This was Columbia Pictures he was dealing with at the time. I believe, if I'm remembering it right. I think I am. Iceman's really good. It just had a restoration, so it's another sort of weird widescreen adventure tale that you can really see if you grew up watching it on HBO and stuff like Joel and me. You can really see now what it is visually, which is a very impressive film. It's another ensemble movie. It's about they find this Neanderthal in the ice, and they bring him back to this up near the North Pole. They bring him back to this laboratory that they've got up there, and they're studying the effects on him and his tissue and everything about him as they're thawing him out. And through some weird thing, while he's thawing, some of his systems start to kick into gear, and somebody in the room gets this idea to resuscitate him, and they bring him back to life. And then they don't know what to do with him. They don't know what to do with him. He obviously doesn't belong in 1984, and they can't just set him loose in the Arctic. So it's complicated. The Iceman's played by John Lone, the anthropologist that's the head of his case once he becomes a living thing, instead of just a frozen relic, is Timothy Hutton in one of his great post-Oscar roles. He did a whole bunch of them. Sadly, none of them were big hits, but he used to choose projects for being really interesting ideas, and this is one of those films. It's got Lindsay Krause and Danny Glover and Joseph Summer, and there's a whole bunch of recognizable faces. David Strathairn, as these group of scientists or whatever. And it's a cool movie. It's about a relationship between these two people from different times. It's an anthropological adventure, basically. It takes place in an exotic land, but it really takes place in this zoo that they build for this guy while they try to study him and figure out what to do with him. And I love it. I think Iceman's really, really cool. That's a film from that era that, again, I don't know why I liked it at the time, but same as Joel, it affected me. I did like it, or if I didn't think I liked it, it stuck with me. It made an impression, and that impression has grown through the years as I've grown. We talk about that phenomena all the time. It's a mature movie with some big, complicated human ideas in it. And once you start to realize what those are and you've lived them a little bit, it becomes really a meaningful film. It's a bit of an allegory. It's a bit of a not what it is. The story itself is sort of unbelievable, but the things if you could just buy into the miracles of science in it, the themes and stuff that it explores are really, really interesting and cool. So, and it's visually still even better than it was. It's a really cool movie. The scene with the helicopter lifting the block of ice out of where this cavern that they're in at the beginning of the movie it's stunning. It's like, wow, that scale of that and the idea of that is so cool. And all their little laboratories and stuff are all neat and full of weird gizmos. And you just got all these scenes of a quandary that all these super smart people are debating, and they all have different takes on it and everything. And that's interesting to me. I really dig that kind of movie. So
yeah, this is one that I honestly hadn't even thought of this movie until I saw it when you emailed me or when you messaged me your list, and I was like, oh man, Iceman! I remember watching that a ton when I was a kid too. It's like, yeah, that's the one that I'm gonna have to revisit because it's
Kino Lorber put out a Blu-ray in America of Iceman that is spectacular. A less spectacular version of The Bounty, but we're still grateful for it.
Yeah.
Because those have high definition physical releases, I assume that you can stream them places. I would really think so. Whereas things like Bear Island, Zulu Dawn, maybe not. But
yeah, I'm seeing. You can. I can rent Iceman for like $3 on Amazon.
It's certainly worth $3. I know we're all used to getting stuff for free now, or perceived free, but it's worth your $3 for sure. It's worth your old school rental fee.
Yeah, just for fun here. Let's see if Bear Island is available to watch anywhere. Nope, not at all.
It doesn't surprise me.
Was a quick
like I said, it's a DVD. DVD looks great, but it's a DVD from England. It's region 2 locked, so you can't even play it on a normal player. You got to have a special one like me. It's a bummer. Still seemed worth talking about. I don't know when we would ever talk about it otherwise.
Right. Okay. Well, so that does it. That does it for this. I think. Oh, I was going to mention a movie that I watched. I have no idea what spurred me to watch this, but it was a movie that I decided to revisit from my childhood. Was The Island at the Top of the World from 1974, the Disney's Island at the Top of the World.
I've never heard of that.
Oh my gosh, it's great. It's got
is it on Disney Plus?
Yeah, it's got David Hartman. It's like they travel. They way kind of, you were talking about Bear Island. It's what made it's what made me think to put this to mention this is it's this guy whose son was an explorer who went missing, and so this guy gets David Hartman, who is what is he? Is he an anthropologist? I think he might be an anthropologist.
He's
an archaeologist. He's an archaeologist, is what it is. To help him travel to try to find his son, and like the super rich guy, and he gets and so they do this expedition, and they end up in like this secret island, this secret world that's been hidden away from man, and they essentially still live by Norse mythology. They're essentially almost like ancient Vikings. And it's
like a family movie.
Yeah, it's pretty family friendly.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
that sounds fun. That sounds like my kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Cool. I just thought of something too, and I'm going to talk about it now, even though it's totally off topic, because I'll never remember to talk about it again.
Go.
There's an old after school special about this teenage girl who was like obsessed with the royal family and wanted to be a princess. And when her grandfather dies, her family moves up to his cabin on this river in between Canada and America. And as they're all settled in, they go to get their mail, and both America and Canada thinks that the island belongs to the other. And she ends up becoming like the princess of this island. I don't know what you just said that made me think of that, but I did think of it. And I think of it from time to time, even though I don't really remember the details. I just want to give a shout out to whoever wrote that after school special, whose name I can't remember. That is a super clever idea for a show, and I tip my hat to you. I dig that a lot.
See now, Princess of Island Barbie, probably not that. Trying to see if I can find it.
You're not going to be able to find it.
Okay, well, if I find it, I'll put it on the Facebook page with the movie show with Joel and Ryan.
I can't find it, and I remember it very well. But it was aired as an after school special, although it really didn't have a let's learn about this or let's learn about that sort of aspect.
This one was more of a, you know what? Sometimes for an after school, you just need a break.
I don't even know if it's any good. I just remember that idea sparked my imagination. I'm like, well, how about that? You know, and of course it doesn't work out where the island becomes a sovereign nation or anything, but but the idea was really, really solid. And adding the fact that the kid was super into like Princess Di and stuff. And I mean, that's like an extra thing. So she really wants to fight for her new homes, which she's not happy to be dragged off to at the beginning. She wants to sort of fight for its independence. And
nice.
It's fun. It's neat idea. So,
also I do want to mention, I watched the Tina Turner documentary on HBO, and that is also quite terrific. Again, an artist that I always respected, but you know, I never really listened to a lot of Tina Turner music. But it's a heck of a documentary. Really, really interesting.
She's one of those weird people who doesn't actually really write any music, so it's kind of tough to. Mm-hmm. She's a singer.
Yep. She she absolutely is a singer. And
she's a world-class singer.
Yeah,
from multiple eras of pop music. You know what I mean? And it has a pretty compelling biography.
Yeah. So
I feel like that story has been told several times before. This is more than just a talking head kind of thing. You get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I certainly did. Now, I've known cursorily, if that's even a word, you know, the Tina Turner story, the Tina and Ike story, and obviously, certainly, What's Love Got to Do with It, the great biopic with Angela Bassett. Right. I'd seen that, but you know, it was just really interesting. It sort of, you know, also kind of what her life is, you know, what her life was like, sort of after she. You know, after her sort of resurgent start, it's not even really resurgent stardom, because
it was pretty resurgence. It was pretty big musical comeback story, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, in this, you know, because it was Ike and Tina, and then when she decided to go, you know, on her own, which was really fascinating to hear how, you know, to hear sort of the in between years of when she left Ike and was really trying to just make it and somehow
just find someone with faith enough in you just to pay for this or that tour or this album or whatever.
And then and she essentially had a cabaret in Vegas, which I didn't know about. So it was just really good. Really, you know,
she went through all that old has-been stuff at a young age.
I will say I was disappointed that they never played the clip where she goes, it's time for Thunderdome. I love when she just like, it is time for Thunderdome. And you know,
they played other clips though.
They played other clips of Beyond Thunderdome.
But that's your favorite.
But the way she says Thunderdome always brought me joy.
She's great in that movie.
All right, speaking of mothers, so we're gonna so now we want to pay a little tribute to moms. And it is a segment that you know, Ryan and I were talking about it, and we think that we can call this like the What Would You Do MILF edition, because we thought of like mothers I love on film, and so MILF. So that's a term we came up with, and so we are going to call this.
Yeah, we're looking to get a patent on that. But
I think happens. and potentially, I think we have a shot at, like, this could be the first movie show with Joel and Ryan merch idea.
Official acronym related merch.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But first, so this is going to be a little, what do you do?
What should I do?
Come on. Come on.
What do you do? What do you do?
Come on.
I don't know.
Come on.
What do you do?
Come on.
What do you do? What should I do?
I don't know.
What do you do? What do you do?
I don't know.
What do you do?
I don't know.
What do you do? What do you do? Seriously, what should I do?
I don't know. Maybe this one.
So yeah, so we have what do you I lost Ryan knows this. I lost one of my external hard drives died on me, which had a lot of my assets from the movie show. So I don't know what this is going to look like when I edit this one. I'm going to have to do a whole new edit on this. So we'll see if I can find this dude again. I really liked him.
He was the best.
I should be able to find him. All right, so first one.
What do you do?
Okay. You let's see, I'm going to do this one. Your home is being invaded, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Your home is being invaded by an unseen, unknown enemy. Oh, did I mention you're a child? You're a child in this one.
Okay.
And your home is being invaded by an unseen, unknown enemy. Which mom is going to keep you alive? Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, Elastigirl Helen Parr, Molly Weasley, or Beatrix Kiddo?
Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
That's a good group of fighting moms. But
Yeah, I thought that was yeah. So we have fight.
Although all of those moms have had their problems keeping their kids safe, I have to say.
There is that.
They don't have stellar track records.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's been that's why it's real, is they do have their flaws, their setbacks. But I sort of feel like, I mean, I kind of, the two sort of relatively, I sort of feel in terms of this scenario of like keeping people alive, it's hard to beat Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor.
Yeah, pretty good. Although again, Sarah Connor.
Well, if you want to go Sarah Connor,
Sarah Connor's got a trail of bodies left behind her that she didn't exactly help very much. Indeed, several of which she sort of sent to their deaths.
But she kept her kid alive.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I sort of,
Ellen did it by fighting monsters, which is a little more palatable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Sarah Connor. You guys should check out after the fact. If you didn't watch it, you should, and you yearn for old school stuff. The Sarah Chronicles TV show was really good.
Yeah, it was.
People didn't really watch it then, and I don't know if they really appreciate it now. But it's only 2 seasons, but that was a good show.
Yeah, that one was fun.
With Lena Headey from Game of Thrones as Sarah Connor.
And oh my gosh, what was her face? That was the
oh, don't ruin that. That's a spoiler alert.
Yeah, but who from Firefly?
Right, Summer Glau.
Summer Glau. Just couldn't remember her name. All right, so okay.
She wouldn't make a very good interview subject for our show. When she was doing that show at the time, there's this dude from some nerd show, doing interviews, and she's making the rounds trying to get people to watch it or whatever, that sort of press junket type deal. And he had this big long question, I remember, and he goes, but it ended with, do you ever worry that that you'll not want to play like emotionally distant or whatever, women in TV shows? And she's like, no. Which is kind of what I did to poor Joel just moments ago. But that's not a nice thing to do when you're doing an interview, to just give a one-word answer and make them load up their next mega question. Dude, he had all the answers, man. It was really funny. He did not care what she thought. And so she just put it out there in this straight up terms. I wish I could remember the exact lame ass question, but he was basically saying, you play the same sort of weird character all the time. Wouldn't don't you want to play normal people, basically, was his question. And no.
All right. Next up, you have the chance. You have spectacular powers to bring people back from the dead, Ryan. And you have the chance to bring back one mom for a character for a day.
For a day, so I'm like the robots at the end of AI or something.
Oh yeah. I mean,
just for a day.
Well, or it can be, you can
just for
set
a
the
day,
terms.
and then you both die forever. Just
no,
like the end.
No, that's not what I'm saying here. But maybe...
I love that ending, Joel, as you know, but people don't typically like it very much out there in the world. So I'm
just saying you could set whatever. When I was typing this out, I went for a day. You can set whatever parameters you want.
Right.
It could be you're bringing them that back.
I'm a magic man. I can do whatever I want. You're a magic
man. You can do it.
Right.
So do you bring back Coral from Finding Nemo? Do you bring back Maggie, Jonah's mom from Sleepless in Seattle?
Ugh.
Do you bring back Cinderella's mom? Or do you bring back Bambi's mom?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, not Cinderella's mom, even though I really could save her some hardships. Stuff works out fine for her. So we'll just leave that. We won't tempt the monkey's paw on that one.
Probably could say the same thing for Maggie from Sleepless in Seattle.
Kind of. That one's a little tougher.
Yeah.
Because that's a little more, that's the only one in fact on this list that you can kind of be like, oh, I recognize that from life, you know what I mean? But yeah, she is also actually the only human character that I put in this list. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that one, that's why you got a noticeable oral response out of me on that one, because that's a tough one. I mean, Bambi's mom, man.
Yeah.
Bambi's mom's like the ultimate movie sacrifice. I'm not going to be sarcastic about Bambi's mom. Bambi's mom really is the best cinematic mom of all time, pretty much. In terms of that, mom. She just laid it all on the line, and did it in that mom way where it's like everything's going to be okay, It's hard to explain, but like that's not. I'm not misleading you. Even though I'm not coming right out and telling you what's going to happen, I'm putting my faith in you to survive and to do okay without me. And I'm going to do the one last thing that I can for you. That's really, really, really powerful, no matter how you break it down. Right. And to bring her back would feel like a slap in the face of that sacrifice. So what's the other one? The fish? I guess it's that one.
Yeah, Coral from Finding Nemo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She somehow you bring her back from
that wouldn't affect. I don't know about how it affects the Nemo universe, but that wouldn't affect my life in one bit. So that's the one I'm going to choose.
All right. Yeah. It keeps the Ryan verse pretty much
intact,
completely intact.
That's right.
All right. Choose. Oh wait, hold on.
What do you do?
I'm gonna need you to choose a mother.
No, of course.
Do you choose Mother? Albert Brooks's film. Do you choose Mother? Darren Aronofsky's Mother. Or do you choose Mother? Bong Joon-ho's mother. So choose your mother.
Darren Aronofsky's Mother is what I'm going to choose. It's almost a spoiler alert to explain what that is.
Yeah.
One of the most absolutely hated films of the last, let's say, 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's just completely brutal and unpleasant experience. But as far as movies that aren't what they are, films that are really allegories, the mother in that story, you feel for. And even though it's brutal and nasty, and it is, and you shouldn't see it if you have a weak stomach or whatever, it is a little bit of looking in the mirror to it. If you really care enough to decode what it actually is, it's quite an indictment of all of us. And I gave it high marks for that. It's an endurance test of a film.
Yeah.
But that's the mother that we need to do right by, and we all need to do better by every day. And so that's the one that I'll take out of that particular group. The other two.
Yeah.
Albert
Brooks's mother with oh my gosh, Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah,
super fun Albert Brooks film. You know, it's
but you know me, I'm not up to that. I would instantly be exhausted and defeated by it. I would. That's just the honest truth. And what was the
Bong Joon-ho's? Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah, that one. That one. I watched after watching Parasite. So I'm like, because I'd seen Snowpiercer, and then when I haven't watched Parasite, I'm like, I want to see another one of his films. And I watched this one. Yeah, and that was
without being a total dick, because I was trying to explain Mother to somebody who really, really hated it, and they didn't hate it because they didn't get it.
Aronofsky's mother?
Although they didn't get it. Aronofsky's, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't get it, but they hated it because they just hated it. And it's contemptible under even the best of circumstances in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I felt like I didn't know what to do. Like nothing's worse than somebody going, well, no, you didn't hate it because here's why. Yeah. So I just was like, I'm trying to explain what Mother was basically. And I'm like, well, what's something else that's not a person that we call Mother? You know, was my question to her. And he kind of was like, and I was like, well, think of it from that perspective.
Well, there you go.
I don't know.
All right. So,
I don't know who let that guy make that movie. In the end, yeah. I admire things that really, really go for it and really take chances and really, you know.
And you cannot deny that about Aronofsky's mother.
Right. And so I really do. I hold it in some esteem, even though I've watched it twice. I watched it once, and then I watched it with my movie buddy who I felt like could handle it, and she did. She liked it better than me, in fact, and I got it over on the shelf, and I don't think I ever want to watch that movie again. That's a tough film.
Yep.
Tough.
All right, the last one.
What should I do?
Oh no, I hit the wrong sounder.
What do you do?
This one is I'll admit I ran out of time. I couldn't really think of a good way to shape this one because in our messages back and forth, we started just bringing up kind of awesome, very real moms.
Well, the moms that popped into my head.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that'd be helpful.
That are really great. These are strong, very strong women, very lived in, to use that phrase that you brought up before. I mean, these are women who
vivid
know
characters
who they are.
They're also mothers.
So this isn't really, but we're just gonna bring up some awesome moms because it's Mother's Day, and there are some awesome moms in films out there. First one, Elizabeth Pena in Lone Star.
And she's not the mom of that movie. The mom is her mom,
right?
Actually. Yeah. But Lone Star, we've talked about on the show before, is this brilliant multi-generational thing. It's this wonderful kaleidoscope of a movie. I love it as much as I love any movie that's ever been made. Elizabeth Pena's character, she does have 2 teenage kids though.
Yeah.
And she's got these couple of great moments with them. She's a school teacher too, so she's really a mom. She's school mom and home mom. And what does she say? She's talking to her friend about how she's just not connecting with her son, who she's worried is going to start getting in trouble. But when she talks about her daughter, she says, well, she pities me and she tolerates me.
She keeps me at a distance. But that's typical, and
you see, and then
how she phrased it. Yeah.
Yeah. So to have that great thing where she says it, and then you see the evidence of it, like it's not a big thing in the movie. It's just for a few moments here and there. And there's this other great moment where they're talking about whoever's going out with who or whatever, and her daughter says, you're 17 or whatever, you don't know anything about love or whatever. And Elizabeth has this moment where she doesn't bring the hammer down on that idea, but she stops it in its tracks and kind of says, no, that's not true. You can feel love, no matter when. And her daughter has this moment where it's like I'm hearing something that's truthful, and that this really neat connection between two people that have their rhythms set up and that are very comfortable in them. And there's a lot that's learned too about her older mother, the woman who runs
the diner,
the big restaurant in town. It's a really, really good movie about parents, about lovers, about legacies between generations, and Elizabeth, she's not with us anymore. And that's the best role that Hollywood ever let her play. She's fantastic in that part. And I just wanted to give a shout out to her because
I'm going to throw out one that, a mother that I really like. Kathleen Quinlan's character in Apollo 13.
Oh yeah,
June Lovell. Just again, another character who has there's a great in Tom Hanks's From the Earth to the Moon miniseries, there's a great episode that's all about the astronauts' wives. And
we've talked about that. Sally Field directed it.
Yeah, Sally Field and just the loneliness and the they're almost, it's like they're almost single parents, except when their husbands have the opportunity to come back and be, but these guys were so busy all the time that
and it's that's just the 60s all over. It's really it doesn't have to be astronauts. There's certain expectations if you're a woman with a family that you're going to do this and that and everything else, and it's all just going to be taken care of day in and day out.
And she has this great, again, talking about the mother-daughter relationship, the teenage daughter who's figuring out who she is and asserting herself, while the scene where they're supposed to go watch their dad on live TV, and it
turns out they're the only ones who even watched it.
Well, and the daughter doesn't want to go because the Beatles are it was announced the Beatles are breaking up, and and it's like you were going to go. And
I can't remember which Beatle she blames it on, but she specifically has a grudge
hates Paul. She hates Paul. I mean, and then and then she's got this teenage daughter, but then she also has this little this young son too, and she's navigating all of that while trying to keep it all together while her husband is floating in space and maybe will never come home. I love her.
Without plowing past Quinlan's character, because she's great in that film, and she was really, really good actor forever that never really got great roles. She go all the way back to American Graffiti, and she's only in it for a few minutes, but we all know this character. She's the bossy friend of Cindy Williams' character, and it's just she just comes to life in a miraculous way on screen in that film from a very young age, and has always been really, really good and everything. But my favorite mom in that movie is actually Lovell's mom when they go to visit her in the home or whatever. And this is a shout out to Quinlan as an actor too, because she's holding down this scene more or less. But they go to tell his mom, what's going on, and there's this fantastic moment where she's figuring it out, and Howard just is brilliant. I know he won an Oscar for whatever the other film, but this is his best movie without question. Everything he's good at rolled up into one enchilada of a movie. It's all in Apollo 13. But this perfect moment where he's got these three kids, where the youngest daughter is hearing them explain what's happening, and she's holding it together, but she briefly looks up to Kathleen, and she looks back at her, and then her face just goes weak and she starts to cry. She can't help it. Now, I don't know I don't know anything about the little girl in that movie. So I don't know where that came from, but it's the combination of stuff, the information that's being given out in the scene, the way that she's all good until she looks another character who's stressed out about this in the face. And that's what makes her lose it. It's brilliant. And grandma's closing line of that scene, I can't remember the appliance that she says, but
a washing machine.
A washing machine. If they could make a washing machine fly, my Jimmy could land it. And she's like, it's all gonna work out. It's the first time in the movie where you're like, it's all good. Like we're all gonna be fine. Grandma's like, this is whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Yeah, that's
which is totally
scene.
Different in tone to what's going on in the scene. Like that scene is, it's not it's not the scene the movie's famous for or anything, but that scene from start to finish is perfection.
Yeah,
it's really, really good.
And it does also wonderfully set up the scene later where they're like, it's like I don't remember what her name is. These are a couple friends. This is Neil, our friend Neil Armstrong, and Buzz Aldrin. And she's like, oh, are you boys in the space program too? Such a wonderfully undercut, just a great moment of levity in this, as the things are really ramping up intensely.
Grandma for the win, definitely.
Grandma for the win. All right, another mom that we love, Joan Allen in Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite. Yeah, boy, one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite moms. I love.
Yeah.
I love her.
Joe Mantegna's character in that, he's playing the sports writer, the author of the book, which is a book about a real kid and a real everything. It's a fantastic film from start to finish. Really, really good. It has a very sort of young Spielbergian magic to it, but Steven Zalian, who's one of Hollywood's finest writers, it was his directorial debut, and it's really, really strong movie from a human perspective and just from a flat out entertainment perspective. It sort of mixes the real peril that this kid is in because he's special at something and what that means for a person. That's a hard thing to write about. The film does a really, really good job of that. And it also just is repeatedly scene after scene after scene of fully realized performances and really well-written stuff with little perfect codas on them, But Joan Allen, who just is one of movies' greatest assets, if you can ever get her in your film. She's just so good at everything. Yep. I just think she's really, really amazing. Maybe she's not super good in Death Race, but sometimes you got to just.
She had bills to pay.
Yeah, and I think she liked playing a bad guy too, which they don't think they ask her to do very often.
That's true.
Nevertheless, it's bad and she's not great in it. So so I'm just saying nobody's perfect, but she's so good in this film. The way she navigates her family and keeps things, it's hard to explain, but keeps things on track. The father character in the show is much more sort of obsessed with his son's success than I think the guy was in real life. I think it was one of the objections that the author had to the thing in the first place. Like he sort of understands that movies work because there's tension and because there's conflict and you got to have that. But they were more of a team in real life than they are in the movie. But in the movie, Joe's got to play this guy in a way that we believe him and still care about him. And she can't be, because she's sidelined in the story to some degree, and she can't be the harpy wife. And it's partly it's written really well, but the other part of it is that Joan just brings this, it's hard to explain, but this very simple, like, elegance to the role. It's hard to explain. You have to see it to kind of get it, but she doesn't put her foot down. It's the same as Elizabeth in Lone Star. It's not there's no moment where that's it's all just if you get her talking, eventually you're going to get to this place where she tells you how it is. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about her.
Yeah. I mean, she clearly, she's the character that is putting the interests of the child and him remaining a child, cognizant of his talents, but trying to remind everybody that this is a child and that that Josh should be allowed to be a kid, and that could easily go into that.
That's the lesson of the movie. So she can't
Yeah.
do that throughout the film and be like the only wise character in the movie who gets it.
And she can't also do it and she also can't do it in a you all are ruining this kid. You know, it could easily turn into a shrew and a harpy and like you said, it could easily, you know, where she turned and then in lesser hands, that's what it would turn into. And then the husband would go, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe we should.
But it's funny how politely she states her case when she needs to, and how everybody in the room still knows mom has spoken, and it's just not. Yeah, it's just not going to change. He's going to play in the park if he wants. He's going to do this if you. And you just. You're stuck.
This is what is going to happen. And
there's that great moment. That's one of my favorite moments, at least my favorite heightened dramatic moment. Most of my favorite moments are the quiet ones with the kids, but there's that great moment where she says, you know, how many baseball players are worried about losing their father's love? And he says, all of them. That's true.
Yep.
You know, it's true. That family dynamic is interesting because he is a special kid, and she doesn't stand in the way of that per se either. So it's a finely tuned balance, but she's one of my favorite movie moms, no doubt.
Another one of my favorite movie moms, Angela Bassett. I brought her up earlier when talking about Tina Turner, which is actually what made me think of this. Angela Bassett's character in Akeelah and the Bee.
Oh yeah.
Love her. How she's sort of, you know, she's she's the antagonist for a good chunk of the film, but she always is, you know, she's the antagonist because she's trying to protect her child, you know, trying to protect Akeelah, and then ultimately obviously becomes like her greatest advocate and, you know, strongest force. I love her. I love her in that film. I love that film. It's a movie.
That's a good one.
I hated the name of it, so I stayed away from it for a long time.
Why?
I don't know.
What's wrong with the name?
I don't know. I thought it was just, I don't know why. It just, I'm like, that sounds boring as hell.
No, that's a cool name.
Well, now I think it is. For some reason,
names I hate are like As Good as It Gets, or you know, it's just stuff that's like, what? This movie could be about anything.
Right.
There's a whole list of them I could make where I'm like, I hate names like that. Why didn't you just call it This Movie Is Nice?
I'd see that movie. Because I would see it because I would know it's going to be nice.
Right.
So, you know.
Right. Okay. I guess I stand corrected.
There you go. There you go, Ryan.
Akeelah and the Bee, like that can only be what it is. That's what I love.
And I get that. I get that. I have no idea. There's no rational explanation why I'm like, I have no interest in seeing this. And then I'm like, okay, it was on, and I'm like, okay, let me.
Well, it did. It was sold at the time, and these things are sold as little feel-good triumphs of the human spirit, and it's a cloying. The way the marketing folks sell that stuff is cloying, and it makes you go, whatever. It's cliched and dumb, and I'm not going to be manipulated by your feel-good story. You know, I get that. I get that
feel-goodery. I will not fall under the trappings of your feel-goodery.
No, thank you, sir.
I said good day. But no. I obviously the movie. I love the movie. See Akeelah and the Bee. If you haven't seen Akeelah and the Bee, see Akeelah.
Check it out.
All right, and the last
show with Joel and Ryan stamp of approval.
Stamp of approval for the video watcher.
Graphic is coming, folks.
There's going to be a stamp of approval graphic. All right, the final mom that you brought up, and that we're going to bring up for this list. Amy Madigan in Field of Dreams.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, she's a lot like Joan Allen in the Searching for Bobby Fischer, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, she's a totally different character with a totally different personality, but the way she works her mom wiles and what she's willing to sort of put up with for the family to follow her dreams, and her sort of pragmatism that has to kick in at a certain point for them to survive. It's like that balance, you know, I believe in you, but somebody has to be the person who's not hearing voices in this family, you know. That's important. And of course that scene stealing, censorship little town meeting that they have at the high school where she just loses it.
Yeah.
I love Amy Madigan. I love her. I love her in everything. And that, I don't know if that's her finest role. It's hard to say, but it's a really, really good one. And that the film is clever enough to give her a showcase like that, so that you see that where these people's passions are. It's important that you see that. And that's where he's got to ride to the rescue and drag her out of that room so she doesn't kick that other woman's ass.
Yeah.
That's really, really fun. Like that. It's a cool partnership, and that's why I love it. And again, it's just because she just makes, it's just an actor who makes the most of every second of screen time without being obnoxious, overcooked, scene stealing crap.
Mm-hmm.
She just is really, really strong. She gets that. And that, to me, that's the magic of storytelling from an actor standpoint. So,
yeah.
So it's like, I kind of love Amy Madigan more than Mom and Field of Dreams, but that's, she doesn't play a lot of traditional moms either. That's another actor who, we talked about Timothy Hutton. She's always looking to do something different, to play something different, and hops on those opportunities. So she could have been Mom for all the whole 80s and 90s, but she kind of wasn't, because she's, didn't want to get pegged at that. But this part, I'm sure, was too cool even on paper to turn down. And she nails it.
Yeah. All right. So, obviously there are many other amazing women, amazing moms.
This was really a quick brainstorm off the top of our heads. We missed a jillion of them. It wasn't a countdown.
Yeah. We are not going to rank moms.
No,
not in this. No, not in this episode.
No, but it was hard enough just to choose those cartoon moms to bring back to life. That was a tough one.
Sure. But obviously, if you have moms out there from
favorites that you'd like us to talk about, or ones that maybe we haven't seen that we could get to experience, boy, we'd love that. Please reach out to us.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are other great ass kicking moms. There are also
plenty of those,
and they're just, I'm always, moments where again, maybe it's asking the larger question of fully realized female characters being rare. But I love seeing those movies where where a mom is a fully realized flawed, has flaws but also has successes. This idea that being a mom isn't magic, but it's also not a death sentence or a purgatory or whatever.
Best mom on TV that I can think of in recent memory, and we didn't bring her up because she's a terrible mom, was Allison Janney in the ice skating movie.
I, Tonya. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
So, but yeah, so I mean, yeah. So,
but she's a super bad mom without being an evil mom. You know what I mean? Like, she's just a really believable person in the world.
Like Amy Poehler's mom in Mean Girls, where it's just literally she was so intent on being the cool mom that it's just lets everything slide. So, but yeah, I mean, if there are other moms that you, dear listener, feel like you want to make sure that get out there in the world, and that obviously if we haven't seen them, if you think maybe that one missed us, please, absolutely, send them our way. Because moms we like on film, moms we love on film. That's I guess that would be MILF with a W.
MILF.
But
we might as well put that. Doesn't work as good on a t-shirt, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway. So that will do it for this week's episode of the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Obviously, reach out to us on Facebook, the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook, at Ask Joel and Ryan on Twitter and Instagram, and the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on YouTube, askjoelandryan@gmail.com.
Those are the spots.
Those are the spots. All right.
Thanks to our moms and all the moms out there making today special. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you, our listeners.
Indeed we do. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.